It's muted. Okay, the Hangout. We are live right now. We are live on YouTube. So, Final Cut Pro Radio TV, my special guest today is Mr. Mike Matzdorff. Now, if you haven't heard of Mike Matzdorff, I probably don't have to introduce you to him, most people, but you're the Final Cut Pro workflow wizard of Hollywood.
I went to Hogwarts to learn how to be the wizard. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I was. Yeah, I wizard. I've been called that before, and other things too. But
yeah, right.
In an interesting place a few years ago when we got started with all this.
Yeah, well, that's your workflow book. That book you put out a few years ago. Is that still live?
It's still available. It's still it's cheaper. It's $5 now, and it hasn't been updated because I think it's still probably like 85% correct, and I'm just too lazy to update it. Yeah.
No, it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
I put out an episode of Final Cut Pro Radio. I got to update websites. I got to update XML files. I got to update podcast feeds. All kinds of stuff. So I understand. I don't mind doing the actual podcast, the editing, right. But when I'm done, I want to be done, and I'm not. I have to go do all this other stuff.
Yes.
So why don't you tell everybody what you're up to these days? We'll get to Simon Says in a minute, but let's find out what you're up to besides Simon Says.
Okay, great. Well, I have been, for the past few years, working in animation, editing animation, and I spent a year and a half working at Warner Brothers, working on a show called Young Justice, and then some of the Looney Tunes that are yet to be released. They're really like radical, crazy, offensive, fabulous Looney Tunes. Right. And a couple of Batman direct-to-video movies. Animated Batman movies. It's a two-parter called The Long Halloween, which is a known story. And I wrapped up there a few weeks ago, and I just started as the lead editor on the Bob's Burgers movie, which is a Bento Box / 20th Century Fox production. So
Kripa in the chat says, "Hi, Richard. Awesome to see Mike on the show. I'm sure everybody's excited to see you on the show. You are more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy most of the time, right?"
Well, I've been out there, and I think that I've done a fair amount of speaking and summits and other stuff like that. I'm just like too busy to keep a regular presence going. But if I see something that is begging me to comment on it, I usually go ahead and do that.
Yes. So you're lead editor, you said now?
Yes.
That's
pretty rad.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's a lot of work. It's going to be out sometime in 2020, we're told, and it's a big deal. It's really exciting for me personally because it's a step which I've graduated to, which is nice, and right. It's a major film, and it's based on a long-running series, 9 years. And it's been so far great. We started getting ramped up and working on story and working on other things. It's a lot of fun.
Now, I have to ask this. What are you editing it with?
Well, the answer to your question is yes. We're going to be editing in Final Cut 10. Also, we're using Storyboard Pro, which is common in this world, for building boards and animatics. And then we're going to be going through that to Final Cut 10 via the Centa X tool, and working in Final Cut 10. It's very exciting stuff.
So what about is your storage? How are you accessing that? Is there anything specific to your workflow that requires a certain kind of storage?
Well, this is a large machine here. Well, we're in the same building as the Bob's Burgers television show. Okay. And we have some access to their storage, and we also have our own storage, which is actually an Avid Nexus.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. So Avid Nexus and Final Cut Pro.
What's it work out?
How does that connect? Just
well, I believe that these are all connected through some optical or maybe fast Ethernet, and I don't even know where the drives are, to be honest. So.
But it just works though. I didn't realize that. I thought you had to jump through hoops.
No, not so far.
Well, that's great.
That's great. It's a lot of fun.
So T. Payton, who you know,
Of course.
he's in the chat. He says, that is one nice drop ceiling.
Thank you.
It adds to the mystery of what you're working on. Oh, man. So, and Creepa says, congrats on the lead editor job, Mike. Very cool that's being cut in Final Cut Pro 10. Absolutely. They seem to be dropping the X10 a bit in some of the places Apple does. It seems to be just
calling it Final Cut.
Just a naming convention. It's always been back and forth. Some places it just says Final Cut Pro. Some places it has the Roman numeral X, and some places it doesn't.
I think it's high time. The 7 just really doesn't work anymore. At least, well, short story. When I was over at Warner Brothers, and we were supplying, for lack of a better term, count sheets to these people called animation timers. And basically what it was just an information in feet and frames of how long each shot was, each instance was, whatever. And the process was, because they were editing Premiere, would be to go from Premiere, XML to Final Cut 7 through Cinema Tools to generate a cut list.
Right.
And at one point, just died and stopped working. Somebody updated something and people started getting these weird errors. And of course, there's no updates and everyone was up in arms. So I talked to Phil and Greg and got Sequence Clip Reporter sort of tweaked to suit the needs over there. And Warner Brothers bought a bunch of copies, so good for them. And I guess the point is that, there is no more Final Cut 7. People still use it, but if they are, that's, they're on old machines and they can't use any of the modern advantages, and it's still Final Cut. So I'm exhausted from arguing and defending and all that. So
sure, absolutely.
I just kind of call it Final Cut.
No, absolutely. But I did notice that Simon Says supports Final Cut 7.
It does. It does. We're agnostic that way.
Well, the Final Cut 7 uses its own XML, not the obviously not Final Cut Pro 10.
Premiere is basically Final Cut 6, from what I understand. And then there's Final Cut 7, and then there's Final Cut 10. And Simon Says supports a bunch of other formats too, so it's pretty right. I use it. I have a transcription business on the side, and for the Spider-Verse movie that came out recently. Another movie that's not out yet I think it's called Spies with Will Smith. It's for Sony Pictures, maybe.
Okay.
Or who's it for? Anyway. And another one, the Ugly Dolls movie, which is from STX. Those all used just something to do with Simon Says and transcription and all that. So that was all Avid. Right.
That's why I always ask, because I just presume Avid for most things in Hollywood, with the exception of a few people like yourself, who I'm sure pushes for Final Cut Pro 10.
Yeah, I do. And, I'll whatever people are. I try not to disturb people's workflow. For example,
sure.
The thing with Bob's right now, where they have a 9-year series going, and so they have their animation houses and how they finish and do all that. So I'm trying to work on top of all that, which is pretty easy due to the XML.
Right.
And support from Intelligent Assistance products. And we're going to see, what can be done, what can change, because if we can improve things with workflow and time and not wasting resources, let's do it. And so I think, fortunately, the frame of mind over here is looking forward, which is nice.
It is nice. It is nice. I agree with you 100%. So Final Cut Pro was just updated to 10.4.5. Was it last week? Yeah, I guess it was last week.
A few days ago, yeah.
It had 4 things that it changed, which is kind of a small update for Final Cut Pro to come out with.
What were they?
I got them right here. Improves performance when generating waveform for clips with no audio channels. Improves stability when sending a project to compressor using the keyboard shortcut Shift Command E. That was a weird bug. People right away said that when 10.4.4 came out, that they can no longer send a compressor with the keyboard shortcut. It hung up Final Cut Pro or crashed it. So that was a weird one. Improves stability when pasting Arabic or Hebrew text into a title. and improves stability when switching tabs in the timeline index. That was it.
Great. Maybe a few other things too. Who knows?
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. For whatever reason, when Logic puts out an update, they list everything they do. If they change the spelling of a word, they list it. And Final Cut Pro is just exactly the opposite. They don't sometimes tell us things that they fix. They obviously features we'll find out, but fixes, no, they don't do that. So that just came out. But I think, I've been talking about since 10.4.4 came out at the summit that there might be a bug fix, which was 10.4.5. And I said, and then I expect 10.5 to be coming out, which is probably NAB, because Apple has already pre-announced. They've already pre-announced there's going to be an update to Final Cut Pro first half of 2019 that identifies and converts legacy media. So makes sense, 10.5. I mean, I guess it could be 10.4.6, but 10.5 makes more sense. Plus,
let's pray for 10.5.
Well, exactly. Well, they've spoiled us now with this Creative Summit with updates, feature updates, and also they've done the same thing the last couple of years with NAB. So that's why I'm saying 10.5 at NAB. Right. But it usually comes out like a couple of days before NAB, not at NAB.
Right.
So people can breathe.
Relax and enjoy the black market, the Black Magic booth there.
That Black Magic booth, that's a city block.
Oh my God, it's huge.
And last year they had the Black Magic Pocket Cinema 4K, which I'm really interested in myself, but it is still not shipping enough of those or something, and people are still a backlog. So maybe I haven't bought one yet.
Well, they're great. They're great sales. They have a great sales force, and they do fantastic demos. And I think, they make some good software, and we'll see how it goes. My good friend Chris Martins, he gave the beta of Resolve a pretty significant test, and it's got a ways to go yet. But it's great on paper. So
yeah, their advertising, exactly. Their pre-advertising is always very, very impressive. Their presentations. So maybe Resolve 16 at NAB. I'm
sure, or 17 at the rate they go.
Well, no, 15.2 I think it is now. So I guess it could be 15.5, but it more than likely will be 16, I guess.
Right,
who knows?
Right.
That's the exciting thing about going to NAB is seeing some of these things. And then, so are you going to NAB this year?
That's a really good question, and I have absolutely no answer for it right now. If there's a party that Ripple Training is throwing, I'll definitely try to go for that because I love those guys, and it's always fun to see everything. Yeah,
I'm saying yes, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm saying yes because it would be a disappointment if they didn't do something.
Right.
So. And their party is typically Monday night. Apple does an event on Monday at 5 o'clock to 6:30, something like that. They do their event, which has grown the last couple of years. And then typically after that, 7 to 10 is the Ripple event. So Guru Gathering, Steve Martin.
I hope so. That way I can learn something.
Well, that's what you're going for. That's what everybody goes here for, the Guru Gathering. So let's check the App Store. Let's see if I'm going to check it one more time.
Okay. I think... let's see. Checking. Did you find anything?
Nope. But like I said, I'm just clicking on updates. I just presume that's what you do.
Okay, let's see.
We're expecting an update to Simon Says. Let me click on the app itself.
Oh, maybe it's not telling me it's an update because now it says 2 weeks ago, so it's not quite there yet. It's going to be there. It's going to be there sometime soon, if not already.
Okay. So let's talk about Simon Says then, because that's the main reason you're here today.
Yes.
So before we go into the update, which is happening right now, it should be rolling out. Let's talk about what exactly Simon Says is. Now, you obviously, or the Simon Says team, worked with Apple to make this extension because you debuted it, you know, with. So how was that process working with Apple with doing the extension?
I was really pleased that we were invited, for one thing. Simon Says is a very small company. It's got, I think, 7 people working all over the globe. And I had talked to the people that I know and let them know we're working on this and check it out and what do you think? And they were very supportive with giving us a shoulder to cry on and some technical assistance when we got stuck, because they have obviously people
Sure.
over there really know the XML well, and
Right.
so just trying to figure out how smooth ways to integrate and operate. And what's interesting about I've never really developed a piece of software before or helped to. I mean, I was really I was a helper here, but it's interesting to see everyone's use cases and what they come up with and how they're working. Because if I'll do something the way I do it and it works fine, and then you do something, it's like, oh, this isn't working for me because of a codec or a format or whatever. And so being able to put it out there and have it tested by a few people and have it run through the paces, and then getting user feedback about, wouldn't it be great if we get enough user feedback about that sort of thing, then we'll talk about new features on top of the ones that we're rolling out today. And we're actually later I'm going to put up a post, and I'll send you a link to this, Richard, which is going to be just a little survey of like 4 or 5 things about what people might want next. Because I know what I want next, or what I want it to do more than what it does, but it's good to ask at least one other person.
Sure. Yeah. At least, a beta team of one.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you want. So I worked with Simon Says a couple of months ago before you had the extension, and at that point, so does it work with it? Now it's an extension in Final Cut, which means, if people don't know, with 10.4.4, there's a little button on the top of Final Cut, the left-hand side beside the browser or above the browser, you have the extension. So once you download the app itself is free, right? The App Store. Yeah. So the app itself is free. Download it in the App Store, and then it installs an extension. You don't have to even do anything, because I didn't install anything extension. I just installed the app.
When you go from the App Store, you can install the extension. I think you do need to go to the web to build yourself an account.
Yes. Okay.
So there's that still the way it works, but SimonSays.ai is the website, and you make yourself an account and you get 15 free minutes just to try it out. And when you go into Final Cut, log into the extension with your account information, and up pops a window with your current projects. You can make a new project. You can drag and drop stuff from Final Cut and have it start to transcribe.
It's exciting. I mean,
it's a lot of fun.
Extensions are just phenomenal. And I've been doing a lot of transcribing the last couple of months just because I have these documentaries. I'm not even using the transcriptions for captions. I'm using them for me so I can search for stuff.
Yeah.
I just transcribe everything now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes in handy on a couple of fronts. And I think, if you use the extension to go in and out of Final Cut, which is a great way to do it because it tracks all the data from inside the clips and the events, and it keeps everything tightly organized. But you can still go to the website and make corrections. It's not 100% accurate, as there's no transcription services, but it's really accurate in my experience. That's why I started using it in the first place as a customer. But on the website, you can edit the text, you can add line breaks, you can change speaker names, you can add, and I'll get into some of the new things right now. On the website, there's something called the bookmark. So if you click click a bookmark, your line or lines of text will highlight in yellow. And there's also a little blue notes field. And if you click the notes field, you can add whatever notes you want. And so when those come back through the extension, the speaker names are a keyword name. The bookmarks are favorites. And the notes that you've left are markers. And so those are 3 very helpful things for
well, those are 3 fantastic things. I didn't realize the bookmarks were favorites.
They are now.
Well,
today.
that's today.
Yes.
So do they retain a name, or it just says favorite?
The favorites just say favorite.
Okay.
But if you add a note to them, that note will appear in a marker right on top of the favorite with any information.
Okay.
So they're just called favorites at this point in time. And I'm pretty sure that's a good question. The keyword range, if the keyword range has the speaker name,
right?
The favorite, maybe that could have the speaker name as well. Feature
because the favorites can be renamed, because I use them all the time. Yes. I make favorites and rename them all the time. Sure. But it makes sense that it just leaves it as the favorite, and then you just rename it if you want to.
Yeah, and I think that you can see, I mean, it'd be nice to have that as an option, but also what we did was, basically if you have a piece of text that's keyworded, and the same piece of text is favorited, we put the transcript in both notes fields, so the note field for the favorite and the note field for the text, so you can still see all the information about the transcript.
I see. That's really good. Yeah. So that's something new that just started then, you said today, with the new update.
With the new update that happened, and that's not even the most exciting thing as far as I'm concerned.
Well, what is the most exciting thing?
Drum roll. This Shamir, who's the guy whose company it is, he showed me this a couple of weeks ago in very rough form, and he showed me a video where he went in and out through the favorite, and there is translation now in the extension. So you can, if you have something in English and you need to deliver in French or German or Italian or whatever, you can now translate, which is awesome. So you can kick out a captions file which has, French or German or English. But here's where it gets interesting. You can select multiple languages at one time. So you can return from the extension with a Final Cut project that has 10, 20, 50 languages stacked up. All the captions are turned off except for English. But it's all there in the ITT data, and so you can get your international deliverable captions back in one click.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw the video. Yeah, I was, and we, tuned it up a little bit, and right now there's 50 languages that it will translate into. And I think, the one caveat is you're going to want to be sure that your language of origin has been correctly cleaned up. And then I think one thing that happens where there are dialectical differences with, Arabic here or Arabic there, or French here or French there. You're going to want to have a local, a native speaker go through it, but still, we're talking 98% of the work is done already.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure the English version is accurate before you do any translations.
Right. And so that, to me, that I was just blown away when I saw that. And I'm kind of hard to impress when it comes to stuff like this.
You're a little hardened, would you say?
I'm just hard to impress when it comes to stuff like this.
Right. So how do all the suppose I did French and Spanish and English, do all three of them come into the timeline index? How does that work?
Yeah, well, if you look at the timeline index, when you have captions, there will be a role for captions.
Okay.
And the captions are all right there as a role, and only English, at least for me, is turned on. But the other captions are just sitting on top of it. So you click off English, you click on French, you click off French, you click on German. But the point is that when you take that and you send that, you process that for your delivery through, I think, compressor, iTunes, whatever, all that information about the switching should stay in there.
Right.
So, it should localize based on the captions that are in there and how it's delivered via the tools that Apple has built for that.
That is like magic. I mean,
that's crazy cool.
That is like magic. So you guys have really done some good work on that. Somebody has. I don't know if you're involved.
Yeah. I think that, the website already did translation, and I think, but it was one at a time. And so the idea of this is sort of jumping ahead, where instead of having to do one at a time, you can do, 10 at a time. You don't have to make 10 different versions. If you're delivering 10 different languages, you can just make one, and then have the metadata serve up whatever's necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a gigantic, just the fact that you now can have favorites coming in and then all these languages coming in for people, especially, I guess, if you're distributing your movie to Netflix and places like that.
Yeah, well, I think
different countries.
Yeah, wherever you're sending stuff, I think a lot of delivery requirements for things which are, I'll use broadcast as a word, but doing streaming or whatever, they've got a whole bunch of requirements, and a lot of countries require closed captioning, and a lot of, they're going to want to have, like, if you send to Switzerland, for example, do you send in Italian, French, German, Swiss German, Romansh, whatever it is? So, you're sending to Switzerland, you send them something with 5 languages on it. Not sure if Romansh is in there, but probably grab that.
Good point.
Yeah.
So what version number is that? Right now I have 9.4.1, 0.9.4.1.
Let me take a look here.
Let's see what's going on. I'm going to go back to the
0941. Okay, hold on. I'm still seeing. I'll have to check and see with the powers that be, but it's not. I'm going to reply right now. Let's see. Don't see it yet, Shamir.
Okay. It'll be out. It should be out in the App Store sometime this afternoon, hopefully for most people.
Yeah. Well, we do have. We're doing the LA, the Lapsy Pug tonight, and so Apple's going to be there, and they're going to show it off as well. And our intent was to be sure it was available for the Final Cut TV and for the event. It'll be out there today.
That is fantastic. So you're going to be at the LACPUG event tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to be demoing the Simon Says stuff at the hands-on part of it.
So let me just read this little post from Michael Horton. He says, for the first time in history of LACPUG, we now allow you to purchase your ticket at the door with a credit card. Now, there's a $1 fee if you do that, the card fee, and you can even use Apple Pay, which I don't think there's any fee for that.
Cool.
The other thing is it's sold out.
Is it? Good.
Yes.
Well, I did receipts, so if anyone wants to buy a couple from me, maybe we can work something out.
There you go. How do they contact you for that? On Twitter?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm actually coming with 2 other people. So.
Gotcha. So they're going to do, Apple's going to be there, which is the second time they've been. I think they were there last year in January, I think. Seems to me. And then Patrick Souther from LumaForge what is he doing? He's working with Jonathan Morrison. He's going to do an interview with him to discuss how he became one of the biggest tech reviewers on YouTube. Gergana and Patrick will be on Stump the Gurus panel. Are you going to be on Stump the Gurus panel?
Not as far as I know.
I think you might be hired.
Somebody might ask me a question. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll direct them to Patrick Souther. He knows everything.
That's what I do. I go this point over. There you go. Answer that one if I don't know the answer to it. And then LumaForge has Celine, who's going to do a show and tell at the end of the evening. So this is already sold out. Final Cut Pro events at LACPUG, ever since the launch, have been very popular there for whatever reasons. I mean,
people want to like it. I think they do like it, and they're curious about it. And I think that the Lassie Bug it can be a tough crowd sometimes because it's
exactly what I was.
Establishment folks and sometimes people are there looking for a fight, but always give them a hot dog and talk them down.
Exactly. I'm not interested in having a arm wrestling match about which NLE is better. Yeah. Whatever. I use what I use what you use, but I have been using that Luma Fusion on the iPad. Have you ever used that?
No, I don't. I did see an ad for it, but I should check it out.
Yeah, well, the last one of these Final Cut Pro Radio TV Lives, I interviewed the 2 developers from that, and they both worked for Avid originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they did the original Avid for iPad app, and then the Pinnacle Studio for iPad app. So that's their background. It is amazing, Michael. It does 3 layers of video right now, 3 layers of audio. They're adding a 4th layer. They're adding multicam. They're adding FCPXML export, they said, by NAB.
Wow.
It's amazing for an iPad. I always think iPad it's $20. $20 on the App Store.
I always like to see stuff going on. I think that as long as I can get back to my desktop and Final Cut, it's okay with me.
Well, that's the idea now. It's coming out, they said by NAB, FCP XML export. So you can do a rough cut or whatever while you're on the train, and then you can export it so you don't lose your work.
Right.
It's quite an amazing little app that I've been using. Plus, I am interested in Resolve. Have you ever used that yet for editor?
Yeah, I've been playing with it on and off, and for me, like of the track-based editors, I think it's got the most potential.
Yeah.
But I still find the whole track thing just irritating and takes me out of working. I like Final Cut because it gets out of the way.
Right. I do like tracks for audio, though. I mean, I use Logic, and I love when I have 20 tracks of audio. I love the fact that I can color code them. I can add dissolves to all the clips instantly with one click, and the whole 9 yards. So for audio, I like tracks, but it's every NLE has strengths and weaknesses, as we all know. Right. So let's talk more about Simon Says. So basically, you sign up for an account on the website. Now, I know there's 2 or 3 tiers. One of them is pay as you go, which is 25 cents a minute, I think, for transcription.
I think that's right, yeah.
I think 25 cents a minute. And then if you subscribe, if you're doing a lot of transcriptions, what you should do is subscribe by the month or by the year. Now, by the month is $15 monthly, but your transcription cost drops to 12.5 cents per minute. So half.
It pays for itself pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick if you're doing any kind of lengthy transcriptions. So behind the scenes with the extension, so now you can drag, you said a project from Final Cut, is that right?
You can drag up a project alone, or an event with projects, or an event with clips of any kind. And just a caveat about the projects. We're working on something which is really difficult to work out based on how Final Cut works right now. And anyone who's downloaded the Frame.io extension probably noticed that if you have like an edit, a working edit, and you want to send it to Frame.io, you don't go through the extension, you go through a share destination.
Okay.
And so, because extensions, things don't get rendered through extensions. It just takes kind of things as they are. And so if you have a cut with stuff all over the place, it gets confused and doesn't know what to do with it and doesn't return a transcription correctly.
Okay.
So when we first started doing this, I asked the designers that I know at Apple, I said, well, what's your intention for how this is meant to work? How do you see people using this? Because they've usually thought about it deeply and had a good idea. And so their answer was that when people finish, they're going to transcribe or they're going to caption, because that's what we call the expected behavior.
Right.
So you finish and you caption. So you take your finished piece of media, your rendered out mezzanine level QuickTime, and you caption that. And so their intention really was to have one piece of media with captions on it. And so that's kind of the way the extension works right now, where if you need to get something captioned, you finish it, you render it out, you do your color, you have your final product, you bring it back in and drop it into a Final Cut project and caption it. So it's not meant to be used on a working edit. You can copy and paste captions if you want it to go that way, but it's admittedly it's a little inconvenient right now to do it, but it's still, the captions are really, really accurate. I mean, the transcription is really, really accurate, and the whole thing with the languages and all that, for me, it takes it out of it. But there is an extra step involved in that. We're working to solve that. Okay.
So when I was watching one of the demos this morning, and once you get your caption and you drag that, is it the icon to your event, and it asks if you want to replace the clips in the event with the transcribed version.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Well, it wouldn't. It would replace, if you're dealing with you'd really only be dealing with one, like let's say you have one clip that's your whole movie inside of a project, and you drag that to the transcribe. When it returns, it's going to ask you if you want to replace your project. So the cut, the And so I always say keep it, keep both projects. I replace clips and I keep projects.
Okay.
Yeah, it will just come back. So then if you had one project in your event, you would now have two, and it would have a number after it. I basically just versioned up, and the version up would be the caption.
So that's really neat, because I've been with other. I've tried it before, and I had two events, but I had I imported the one XML, but I had both events automatically. I didn't know you could drag it to the top of an existing event, and then it'll do that. Yeah. It'll give you the option.
Yeah, well, I think it's a much better process through the extension.
Right. Okay.
And so I think that there's, transcription is the same, but the sort of interoperability is much better with the extension.
Okay. So right now, are you going to add the ability to do your payment system in iTunes at any point?
I don't know about that. I don't know exactly why it is how it is now. You're talking about like as a subscription fee or something?
Your subscription, if you want to update, right now you have to go to the website and update your account there, and then the app automatically sees what you have. But I was wondering if there's a shortcut to that.
I don't know, but I can ask.
Okay. Okay.
And then with the flurry to get the extension done for the summit, there was quite a bit of work that's gone into it. As I said, with a very small team, so we're trying to knock one thing out at a time. Right.
I can't wait to see what other extensions are forthcoming. So right now, Apple asks you a person or a group of people to make an extension, invite only.
I believe that Apple is curating how it goes. So the things that they deem, I don't know what their criteria are, but they are curating it. So I don't know how they choose, but we were asked to build something.
So developers can submit an application to be considered?
I just don't know the answer to that, Richard.
I wonder because I'm just curious with some of the other applications.
Yeah. I think there's Frame.io has an extension, of course, and Thomas Szabo was hired by Frame.io. And I would love to see, like Primaries Exporter and Clip Exporter be extensions. Sure. They're great apps, and you can't get them anymore because they were sort of absorbed. And I would love to see some of the stuff that Phil and Greg are doing, intelligent assistant stuff. There's a bunch of cool possibilities there, but I think that I don't know anything about how the selection process is made. I just feel really lucky that I was part of the first batch.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great honor. I mean, being at the summit with that, with the extensions coming out. I mean, that was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. So when you take just say it's for simplicity, an event with let's say there's 5 clips in it. Okay. What happens to when you drag it over to the extension to the Simon Says extension for transcribing? Does it upload those files? Does it just use audio for those files for the transcription?
Well, let me give you a little background on that. So there's a few kind of clips, like if someone makes their own sync clips or has sync and link do it, or if they're doing multicam clips. Some people like everything to be a multicam clip. Whatever audio is enabled is going to transcribe. And so that's one thing that people need to know, because if you're working with multiple levels of things inside of a clip, you're going to disable some audio, otherwise you're going to overmodulate, even if it's duplicated. So, disable the audio you don't want to transcribe, or that you don't want to hear regularly anyway. But if you drag your event with, even if there's 3 different kinds of clips in it, if there's multicam clips and sync clips and embedded clips, what it's going to do is it's going to grab the audio and pull that up to the server, do the transcription, and then send XML back, which relinks. It doesn't relink it. It just puts it on your clips. So the clips are being replaced. It'll ask you if you want to replace clips, and people should test it out initially, without replacing, just to see how it goes. But the idea is the clips would basically be unmodified, except for the fact that they have the transcriptions, the favorites, the the markers as and you'll notice that the clips you get back have the same tracks, it's the same audio disabled. So it's basically exactly the clip, but marked up.
Oh, okay.
Stuff.
So when I worked with Simon Says before, one of the features I really liked was the ability to adjust time code on the transcription.
Yeah.
So because I had initially, I was using clip time code. Yeah, I was using clip time code, but for some reason, one time I got mixed up and I tried to bring it back into a project which started at 0. But I could go back and adjust the time code.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good feature, and you can also adjust the time code base. So 24 versus 2398, 5994, 60, whatever. But one thing that, and I don't know exactly the answer to this, but I did a lot of testing with it, is sometimes Simon Says will recognize your time code. I think it becomes irrelevant when you use the extension, but if you use a website, some kinds of clips are built in such a way where it'll recognize the time code and the time code rate. Others won't, but as long as you know what it is, you can fix it if it comes in either off or needs to be offset or anything like that.
So that's a really good feature. Now, can you adjust the time code in the extension? Or you have to go to the website for that.
That's a website thing, and I think the reason for that is because within the extension,
it's using that I really like.
It's using clip data. So if whatever's in the meat of the data of your clip will carry across. Okay.
You froze there for a second.
Well, you froze. Okay.
Well, both of us are freezing. We're hitting each other in the middle of the internet. So what was I going to say about that? I can't remember, but I'll remember in a minute.
Time code.
The time code. So basically, it's not uploading the entire clip because I have 10-bit files.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, some of them are like, gigabytes and gigabytes. So now it's just using the audio from those clips.
If you go through the extension, it's transcoding audio down to a lightweight, high quality format and transcoding that.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah. And what would you say the accuracy is at this with good clean audio, not somebody who's recording in a tunnel somewhere, but good clean audio?
Well, to quantify it, I'll use a scientific term, which is super duper good.
That's a good thing. That's it.
Well, yesterday, there's this thing we're doing tonight over at the Lassie Pub, and there's this presentation that Apple's going to be doing, and I took some of their media to run it through just to see how it went. And it was this little documentary with this guy talking, and he's got sort of a Latino accent.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly where he's from, and there was one or two Spanish words in there, or Spanglish. And other than the Spanish words, it was 100%. It was spot on for what was being said. The punctuation wasn't perfect, but it was actually 100% except for like 2 Spanish words.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm impressed even still by it, so I'm very happy about that. And I think it depends on someone on the mic, is someone off the mic, is there background noise, is there music? When you're doing it, you have to position it for success by giving it the best quality files without a bunch of backgrounds. If people drop something on that's a full mix, they're going to lose quality because it's trying to discern what's underneath the music and what's underneath the explosions and all that. So,
sure. Now, the other thing is if you're having an interview, for example, like you and I are talking now, I know on the website you could go in and identify speakers yourself. Does it, how long, one of the things I would notice, how long does it take before it makes a new paragraph?
I think there's automatic choices that are being made. And one thing in the survey that's going to come up today, Richard, that I'm going to post after lunch because I'm hungry, is the ability to not only do the editing within the extension, so instead of having to go to the website, being able to edit your text, which includes adding a speaker name if need be, but also allowing the user to decide should it break at a sentence? Should it break at how you define it, or should it be automatic? And I think that, with kind of what we're going for here with the searchability for the ranges with the transcriptions, I think breaking at a sentence is a real good idea. For me personally, I use this for animation and stuff like that, and so there's line numbers associated with that. So being able to break it the way I want it is also important to me. And I mean, even using other transcription services, I think that automatic is okay, but I never rely on that stuff for serious work.
Right. Is there any media, if Final Cut Pro handles media, is there any restrictions on what Simon Says will, use the audio from? For example, obviously, if it's just pulling audio, the 10-bit files that I use don't make any difference.
Correct. Yeah, I haven't found anything that makes a difference so far. The one we did have a hang up on broadcast wave files, which is wave files but multi-channel, like something. So if there was 5 microphones,
right,
and I successfully did some of those recently. So either we figured out what the problem was, or it was just a lucky guess.
Well, could be a combination of the two. Yeah, absolutely. Let me check the website again. I'm going to keep checking. This is like when Final Cut Pro comes out. I keep going over and checking.
I know. Well,
it's there. It's
there.
Yeah, it's there. 0.9.42. Released January 23rd, 2019. It says 100 transcription languages.
And translation for 50
translation of subtitles to 50 languages, and then minor fixes.
Yes.
Congratulations, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So how did you get involved with Simon Says?
I was a customer.
Okay.
My transcription business, and I was trying out. I was having to do a lot of work for Avid clients, and I had figured out this gigantic hoop jumping thing to get from SpeedScriber through Final Cut, through Producer's Best Friend, through Google Docs, into the Avid, which was painful, and it was just really hard. And when I saw that these guys just did like a spreadsheet, I just gave them a try, and the transcriptions were impressive at the time. And so I started asking them to do stuff for me, as I do with software developers.
Sure, and, absolutely.
Then we talked, and they asked me if I would come on board and help them with some of their stuff. And I said, okay, and we had lunch, and here we are.
And there you're. Yeah. So of all the different hats you wear, which one do you like the best? Do you like editing the best?
Well, I think, I really like editing and animation. It's a lot of fun. It's a creative process. I'm not a great businessman. I like to figure things out, which, that's the book speaks to that. The animation is a lot of problem solving. Editing itself is a lot of problem solving. But I find it really interesting building a piece of software and helping build a business. It's something which is out of my comfort zone, so it's challenging, but I enjoy it because of it.
Right, exactly. So, have you ever worked with a jellyfish? Just curious.
A little bit. I've never been on a job with it, but I've done a bunch of demos with it and mucked around with it quite a bit. I'm good friends with Sam and Patrick and Eric and all the guys down there at LumaForge.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all great guys. I haven't used one yet. Not in my studio, but of course I've used one at the different places that I've seen them. I've watched the demos and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, what else do you want to talk about with Simon Says?
Well, there's one other thing which is really cool, and I'm not sure how it applies to your audience, but one thing that I find with the people who I deal with who are studio people, like security is super important to them.
Yes.
And if you're feeding something to the web or the cloud, whatever you call it, to get transcription done, there's always a security risk, albeit very low, and there are security things in place, but still it's there because it's the web. And we've built something which is totally standalone. So, piece of software, we have to come to install it because it's gigantic.
Right.
We have to have a fast pipe. But basically a piece of software, Simon says, but fully self-contained. So it'll do the same translation, it'll kick out all the same options. And so if someone needs that, and it's going to be working with the extension as well if you're working in a closed environment. But it's called an on-premise solution for air-gapped computers. So it's completely offline and provides very, very precise transcriptions and delivers in any format that we currently do, and there's quite a few.
Well, that's amazing. I imagine most of the Hollywood films are very sensitive, obviously, to security if they do any kind of transcriptions.
Yeah.
So that would come in great for that. So we have a question in the chat, real quick. It says, I have 5 channels on my WAV files, all the same dialogue, but different distances, mic and room, shirt, boom, and so on. Should I turn off any of these channels within the WAV before using the app?
I'm going to guess that in that same WAV file, there's also a comp track. So there was probably a mixer mixing down everything into one track. If there is a comp track, I would only transcribe that one.
Okay.
But depending on what you're looking for while you're editing, you'll find yourself re-enabling the tracks that are turned off.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
For perspective and filling in backgrounds and stuff like that. Sometimes things are just too clean and you need to muddy them up a little bit.
Right. I would presume that they're lined up, though, right? They might be a little different because of the distance, but...
Yeah, they might be, but I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt the transcription too much. But it's always, as we discussed earlier, it's always good to just present your best possible scenario to the software so it'll do the best job possible. Get your money's worth that way. Right.
So Simon says it'll send keywords based on speakers, right? Keyword ranges. It does favorites based on, what was it based on, favorites?
Just to back up one, so the keyword ranges, the name of the keyword will be the speaker name.
Okay.
And then in the notes field of that will be the transcription. And favorites are also, those are coming from the bookmarks.
Bookmarks.
That's a little yellow button. And those will also have the transcription in them, in the notes field.
Right.
And then you can leave notes on transcriptions. There's a little blue button. And those will come through as markers with the note that you typed on them.
With the note you marked. That's right. I wish Final Cut had a notes tab somewhere you can put notes in. Yeah. I mean, Logic has one. I use it all the time. Logic has one per clip or per project or per track or per project, either one.
That's nice.
Yeah, and you just open the window up when I'm doing transcriptions. I put them in there, and I can, if I'm reading something, I can have them. Mm-hmm. So that would be nice. So the other thing was, does it export SRTs if people need an SRT?
Yeah, you can export SRTs. Somebody will have to check the extension and see if you can do it right from there, but I think it's just the website. You can export SRTs. They work perfectly fine.
Right.
And but if you are working within the extension and you're working within Final Cut, there's no reason not to use the extension and the ITT that it generates. Because I think I'm not sure about the multiple language capacities of SRTs.
Okay.
It's just a text file. So I guess if you did your translation, once you do something that's done and you can put it in different formats. So if you did, let's say you did a translation for 10 languages and you would have those, pretty sure you could download the SRT files that are appropriate to each one of those. Although I just don't know much about the format. Other than
I don't either.
That I can import it to Final Cut.
I just know the SRTs seem to be pretty popular and universal right now.
Yeah, well, it's very much the sort of Swiss Army knife of text file capture. You can turn them into a lot of different things. There's converters to take them to STL for the Avid subcats. Exactly. Some other formats too.
So in the chat, Eugene Lauren says, "Can Simon Says be counterpart to script sync in the Final Cut Pro world?" I'm not sure exactly what that means. I haven't used script sync.
He's talking about the Avid script sync program.
Oh, I see.
I would say it's a different product. It will give you a lot of information. Script sync. There's two things that Avid does: phrase find and script sync. So script sync will actually show you a script and a line script, and you can click on a clip and it'll take you to that point in the script. Whether or not that line was delivered is based on the fact that someone put it there. So if I'm supposed to deliver a line like, "Hey, you, get out of here,"
right,
and it says, "Hey, you, get out of here" on the script, the line will line up right there. And if I say something else intended for that same place, like, "Bob, you better run," you can put that right there, but it won't be the same line. So it's just more of an idea of where something is supposed to go, which is great. And phrase find, it works like on phonetic technology. So if you understand how phrase find works, you can search for things that sound like ENJ, engine,
right,
print,
right.
and you can find things based on that. It seems you kind of have to learn another language. It's like remember when you had your Palm Pilot, Richard, and you were learning the alphabet?
No, I didn't have one, but I know what you mean.
Somebody out there did, probably T-Baby. But so the script sync and the phrase find, good tools for the Avid. We do make locators, which are now called markers, which is always, I'll never stop saying locators, which from Simon Says, which can import onto clips in the Avid, which works great. You can search words with the Avid Find tool. But the whole script sync thing, I think, I don't know. It's just a different thing, and I think you have to employ some additional techniques to get it to work the way you want it to work. Like you have a scene number in a script, and then line numbers within a scene. If you're shooting a narrative thing, you could probably orchestrate something that way. But it's still going to take a fair amount of work, and as does script sync. There's not much automatic about script sync. It's a pain in the butt to do. I know SpeechScriber exports that file for script sync, but again, it does what was said by the actor, not what is on the script. So if you're trying to do it based on a mapping to a script, it's a tricky thing. But it would be great if somebody would have done that.
Well, but plus those are separate apps, right? They're not built into Avid.
They're accessible. They're part of, like, we'll call it the suite. I think. I mean, you pay extra for them, but they're integrated into the Avid.
Because I remember when they weren't in there for one version, people were very upset a couple years back.
Yeah, people had a fit.
Absolutely. So I know you said you're not sure if you're coming to NAB. What about Simon Says? Are they going to come there by themselves, or?
Well, I always like to go to NAB if I can. I think depending on how business is, how we're doing. It would be cool to be there. I think that depending on what's going on with the company and what's going on with the extension world, and see who we can hustle into getting us a hotel room or two, and see how it goes.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about? I'm going to do a plug at the end, but anything else with Simon Says? No,
I appreciate the time, Richard. We've gone over it, and if anyone has any questions, simonsays.ai has a sort of people who are responding pretty quickly. I'm going to post a few things about that survey just for new features, because we're interested in what people are using and how they're using it. So, and if you want to send me one of those Stratocasters, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, my Strat. Where is it? Back over there. That's my blonde, but it's not actually a blonde. The body is ash, but the fretboard is rosewood.
Love it.
I had a Jimi Hendrix Strat. It was blonde, but I traded it in for an SG.
Yeah,
I like the rosewood necks. Do you like an SG? What was that song I saw you play? I saw you play a song on my Facebook timeline one time. What was that?
Oh, maybe it was something that, I used to play in a band and write songs. It was probably just one of those. I was talking with my old bass player, and he was like, "There was this song," so I just put a piece of that there. See, was it this one or was it this one? So.
Yeah, exactly. So simonsays.ai is the website. On the Twitter, it is Simon Says _AI or something, or
I think that's right. Yeah.
Let me check.
And I'm also.
Let me check real quick.
FCPX features. That stuff will filter through as well.
Yeah, and see, it is Simon Says _AI on Twitter, so you can ask questions there. And FCP What was yours again? Because I just did your name. I didn't do the...
Yeah, well, it's FCPX Features.
Features, that's what it was, because that's what was your workflow book.
Right.
All right. I think we've solved all the transcription problems that anybody has currently, right?
I hope so. Thank you so much, Richard. And I'll see you next time around.
Well, one more question. What are you having for lunch? Everybody wants to know.
Well, I think I might run down to the Whole Foods and get some barbecue.
Okay. There you go.
Right.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Richard.
Talk to you again.
Take care.